parents' house was right for you. How's that? Getting chicken skin. Anyway, with further ado, this is our second series. Uhane Pohaku Namu, not Mainaki. Am I right, Auntie Darlene?
Yeah,
Money?
You know, Ka'u of the new home back. My daughter is going to start this evening with Pule. This is my daughter, Pele Onomia, and her son. Pele teaches at Navajo Colonial Pu'u Kia Ao Puna, and her son is an 11-year-old fifth grader at Navajo.
Aloha o Kamani Harming ko inoa o Mary Kawena kuʻi ko tutu kualua. Mahalo no ka hele ana mai kia hiahi e pule kako.
mahalo for having us this evening. We start with pule. Pule kako. Au hea oi kia kua e keiki. Mahalo ka ria o keiki o atu. Ina hiki. Pule kako. Au hea oi kia kua e mako kaupa i keiki. Mahalo ka ria oi no kia. Ako ana mai o mako. Nā mamo Mary Kawena kuʻi. Me nā waloa pu kekahi o kia aina kua makai o ka uni. Mahalo ia oi ko lawe ana mai ia mako me ka palekana i kia aina o ko mako po e kupuna. Nau no e alaka i mai, nau no e kia i mai. Nau no e o palekana mai i ka poe apo i ho e kina mai. A ma ka palena pau o kia hui ana o i ho i kia me kia i kona mahi e rei me ka maika ia me ka palekana i ka poe. Mahalo pu i keia kupuna aloha o mako i hana nui a i pa'u maluna o ka hana no na hanauna o ka lahu i Hawaii. No leila e kia kua ki hape ai nei mako, ko mako leo ho me ka ia oe, kia mopu me ka ia pau. Maka ino o ka makua ki keiki a me ka uhane molele. Amene. Ki e ka utua makani e mukau mai ka ia e loa i ka ulau ka ulau i nā pula ka i nukuru veu ka wahine ka iri pua o ka ia alu pua o ka milo ka e kanaka ka i alu ke anua iai o wau ne la alu ke anu ka kahia ka rio ai ka inoa o nā kupuna Aloha.
Mary Kawena kuʻi was widely recognized as a cultural expert, translator, author, lexicographer, loya or hula expert, historian, researcher, genealogist, composer of chants and songs, teacher, language expert, and one who so loved the ways of her Hawaiian people that she dedicated her life to recording them for future generations. Many concur that Mary Kawena kuʻi stands alone in the history of Hawaii for her contributions to the preservation, perpetuation, and revitalization of Hawaiian language and culture. It has been said that anyone in the world who has the slightest interest in the Hawaiian culture has at least one book on their bookshelves with their name on it. Whether it is the Hawaiian language, hula, customs, history, genealogy, legends, fishing, planting, medicine, beliefs, the life cycle, ho'oponopono, place names, songs, chants, religion, old saints and proverbs, or any aspect of Hawaiian culture, one cannot avoid coming across the name Mary Kawena kuʻi. In a November 1999 article in the Honolulu Star Bulletin, Burl Burlingame wrote, Hawaiian culture, largely repressed at the beginning of the century in favor of Western education, began a comeback in the 1960s and is in full flower today. The Hawaiian Renaissance would have had trouble getting off the ground, however, if it had not been for the tools provided by educator Mary Kawena kuʻi. In the August-September 2007 issue of Manaho magazine, in an article entitled Kawena's Legacy by Chad Blair, DeSoto Brown, then Bishop Museum's Archives Collections Manager and current board member of the Mary Kawena kuʻi Cultural Preservation Society, said, Kawena really is the primary informant for how the Hawaiian culture is practiced today. She recognized that the language and the knowledge were being lost. Kawena felt it incumbent on her to make sure Hawaiians who came after her would be able to go to her work and learn from it. In the same article, Auntie Pat Namakabekin, Kawena's daughter, added, she always wanted to preserve whatever she had earned. Mary Kawena Pukui authored or co-authored over 50 books and composed over 150 songs and chants. We will share some of those songs with you throughout this evening. My daughter Kuilani, Miss Aloha 2008, will perform a couple of family chants. These are old chants. The first one is Kalawai'a Holona Ikekai o Mana Ka'a. It's about my great-great-grandfather, Kili Kanakwe Oharilani, his brother Kikipi, and their cousin Kavelo, fishing in the sea of Manaka'a on the eastern end of Waikapuna. The second chant is Meleino o Kupake. I'm sure many folks remember. He's a very beloved chief. Kupake, I love this chant. It starts out with Aole awi maki maki ya kona, o ka'u ka'u. I do not care for kona, for ka'u is mine. This is one chief who Kamehameha worried about a little bit because when he used to go around and gather the chiefs, kind of wine and dine them and make sure everybody's okay, the ka'u chief would never show up. So he sent some people to go find him. And when they found him, there's two stories there. One, when they said, how come you don't come to the meetings when come in and call the meeting? He said, who? And the other version, he said, I know it's a funny, you know what a funny. But who was like that? And they used to call Ku'u the rebels. We have that kind of temperament. And my grandmother used to always say that the people of Ku'u are all related. Hoka ino ohana hoka my kauka akekai, my karipai, karipai. Offshoots of one lineage are the people of Ku'u, from the uplands to the sea, from border to border. These could tell me one family, all Ku'u is one family. So, I like to ask my daughter, Kalima Ku'ilani, she was Miss Aloha 2008, and these are old family tales.
When I did my Miss Hula performance, I wanted to honor our family from Ku'u. And so, with research done and looking at some of the songs that our great-grandmother had written, these are the things that I had chosen just to honor our family lineage coming from Ku'u. And so the first is a chant, Eoe Kalawai'a Holona. Eoe Kalawai'a Holona Ikekai o Manaka'a. Humayo kanaka ule kamea yaya kisna yo ka ule o makau kau ka o oi kau kala ina o vai vai ole ola kai hui ki pai. O ki yo ai la ni kai ka uya ko o vai o ma he kai kai o. Moe ha una ka makau kai a kupui a vale la lo ki kai a ka ola na kai a mai ola vai a ni. E ki. Heo. Pai a ka pa ka hi pa lua pa ko ku mai o ku le kamea yaya ka yo ka. O huli o ka mano ki ka inai ko kai kumu kai o ka lua ka pukane o le ku mai kai ki paki ka mea. Lo hea kula ka ma kula kai a ka holo na nina mai o ka maho ai ka ka ole. Ua heia o ko kai a. Ai, ua heia ma ko kai a. O ka hilau me ki ka au keu e ua. Ku mai o ka halikua ka mano ka hi a ka imi pono ana kai kua ana. A o he no he mamola vai a, he mamohi ai mani kala me ka ua. Uhi hewa wala vai a nui nei o kalai nina papapani na piolola ai te ama ka pōni o ka vai. Mai na kiki a kala vai a me ka ino. A o heita na ka holana. A o he no he mamola vai a i wala i ka ai, i pipula ni lani te haka waha wala vai a nui nei. O na inoa pākolu ke iau na makua ui he ai kukeki o kala vai a holo na pana kai inoa koi nei a. O huli he māpua, e oa. Ai, mele inoa o kupake. Matai pulau Hawaii Kapana makao kaya Kawaya lohai Awai kawai malakane Iana Ike o Anoana Ekani Oh ana
I love that first verse. I cannot is mine. It was about noon on Saturday, April 20th, 1895, when Akonikawa met his brother-in-law, Henry Wiggin, about to stop at a coffee shop on his way home from work at the Hutchinson Sugar Company in Na'alehu, and said, "Hey, Holly, they can't come here anymore. Harry, it's a fat girl." The new father turned his horse around and galloped towards his mother-in-law's house, Haleola, on Haneomalu, above Na'alehu, where we are this evening. She was born right above here. The little infant was delivered by her grandmother, Nali'Ipuaimoku, an experienced midwife. She was named Mary Abigail Kawena Okalani Ahi'iaka Ikapole Opele Kawena Aikunua. The rosy glow in the sky made by Hi'iaka was radiant through the Opele, the earth and sea woman. Nalei Apele was her other name, and that was Pele's crimson Ihualays for her and an older sister who had died. Her name appropriately established her family's ties to the fire goddess Pele and the fire clan of Kuʻi, who claimed direct descendancy from Pele. To all Hawaiians, Pele is Akua, she's a goddess. But to the people of Kuʻi, Pele is also Amakua, she's a family guardian. This is a picture of Po'ai, Nali'Ipuaimoku, my grandmother's grandmother. Her mother was Mary Pa'ahana Kanakaori of Ka'u, and her father, Henry Nathaniel Wiggin, from Salem, Massachusetts. As the two new parents sat and gazed upon the newborn infant, something occurred that would set the tone for this child's entire life. You see, it was an old Hawaiian custom that the firstborn child was given to the grandparents to be reared and taught, a boy to his paternal grandparents and a girl to her maternal grandparents. It was then the responsibility of the grandparents to teach them Ho'opuna, the family history, genealogy, traditions, who their Amakua were, the lore and language of their people, etc. It was an ancient custom that bore much responsibility for both kupuna and child. The infant's grandmother went and sat at her holy son-in-law's feet and looked up at his face. She hesitated to ask him the same question she had asked her Hawaiian sons-in-law each time there was a birth, as she had been turned down each time and told, "It's the new era, new age." Although she had been disappointed in the past, she was driven by her traditional family duty. She quietly asked her holy son-in-law, hello. No, come on now. Harry, is the grandchild mine? Kawena's father, who had much respect and aloha for his Hawaiian mother-in-law, responded, yes, Mama, she is yours. Poi said quietly, then stood and went to tell her eldest daughter, Mary Rebecca Puhiana, that the baby born that day was hers to raise. Pa'ahana was surprised at this and asked her husband why he did that. Your mom is getting old, he said, it doesn't have too many years left. Let there be happy ones with a grandchild to teach and to raise in the Hawaiian manner. From that day until Poi breathed her last and left this life, the two were inseparable. Kawena and her grandmother lived in Honeyomanu above Na'alehu, where her parents lived. Just below the house was an old dry stream. A dry stream bed that once was filled with flowing water. On its banks grew ferns and various upland plants. An old story said that the goddess Ina had once rested by the stream under a shelter she made of coconut leaves, giving the place the name Honeyomanu, coconut leaf shelter. After water was diverted by the plantation, the stream dried up. Some then called this place Kapariwaiwale, the hill with no water. But those who lived there and loved the area used the old name Honeyomanu, right above where we are now. Kawena's father, Henry Nathaniel Wiggin, was a New Englander from Salem, Massachusetts, who came to Hawaii in 1892 to work at the Hutchinson Plantation in Na'alehu. As the head luna, he spoke fluent Hawaiian, but only spoke English to his daughter. He was a direct descendant of America's first poet, Anne Bradstreet, and Massachusetts Bay Colony Governor Thomas Dudley, who signed the charter for Harvard University at Cambridge, and Simon Bradstreet. He introduced her to stars of Paul Revere, Ichabod Crane, Rip Van Winkle, the poetry of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, read from Ralph Waldo Emerson, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and the Bible, exposing her to his language and New England heritage. This knowledge of her mother's as well as her father's language was invaluable and allowed her to bridge the two. She would express her gratitude many times throughout her life to her Hawaiian father, her healthy father, who allowed her to be raised by his Hawaiian mother-in-law, Nani Poimoku. This is my grandmother's about 6 years old. Being raised by her grandmother provided Kawena with a unique education and appreciation for her maternal heritage. Poi taught Kawena the Hawaiian language. She memorized ancient chants and rituals, learned Olohola customs, beliefs, religion, and family history. This Hawaiian custom of grandparents teaching the eldest of each family was to ensure the preservation of the culture and lifestyle. Little Kawena was very curious about everything and was always asking questions of her grandmother. Poi was a practiced midwife and expert in medicines, sometimes sending her young opuna out to gather the plants she needed. Poi also was close to Queen Emma and had traveled with her as a dancer and chanter at the Queen's request. Wherever Poi went, Kawena went to the beaches, to the upland, to the Mormon church at Nalua, to the walk at Honoapo, to spending the night at Palahemo in Kalai, everywhere. When Poi softened the earth around her potato mounds, the child was there asking questions about the caterpillars, cocoons, the rat's nests, or whatever she found. Poi patiently answered all her mopuna's questions. Poi and Kawena walked from her home in Honeyomanu to Nalua, faithfully, even when age and rheumatism hampered her movements. She and her mopuna would walk, rest, Poi with her cane to and from Nalua. Poi was the first of her generation to have a Christian burial. All before her, for many, many generations, were taken to Kilauea. After midnight, the bones in red and black kapa, and with proper chants, the bundle was deposited into Pele's home. If the person was not accepted, the bundle would fly out from the pit. Kawena would in later years, with a twinkle in her eyes, said that none of our family was ever rejected. After Po'ai's passing, 6-year-old Kawena moved back to her parents' home in Na'alehu, where her mother continued to teach her the things she knew. Kawena's unique education and appreciation for the Hawaiian language, customs, beliefs, religion, and family history began almost from birth. As far as Kawena's formal education, she attended Catholic school in Waihino. Her father, Kelikino or Celestino, taught lessons and prayers in both English and Hawaiian. She remembered walking with relatives and friends from Na'alehu to Waihino and back, sometimes chewing kuʻi gum, pilati, gathered from the trees on the way to school and back. In 1902, the family moved to Kapu'iwahi. It's now known as Glenwood, in the uplands near Kilauea, and Kawena attended the public school up there. He went to and from school on horseback. And her father, like I said, had been the assistant to the manager of Hutchinson Plantation, Mr. Hewitt. But a new manager was hired, and Henry did not like the harsh way he treated the workers, so he quit. He left and moved his family. Kawena then attended Hilo Union School in Hilo, where classes were in English and speaking Hawaiian was prohibited. When Kawena was 9, her father was transferred to Kilauea on Kauai, where Kawena celebrated her 10th birthday before moving back to Hawaii Island when she was 11 because her mother was ill. Henry and Pa'ahana moved to Oahu when he was offered a job in Honolulu by a friend and former co-worker at the plantation, Alexander Lindsay, who had moved to Honolulu, studied law, and became a judge. He was also Kawena's godfather. Henry became a bailiff in his friend's court. After Judge Lindsay's term was up, Henry got a job as a prison guard at Oahu Prison. Meanwhile, Kawena stayed on Hawaii with an aunt until she joined her parents in Honolulu. In Honolulu, Kawena went to Central Grammar School, which became Central Intermediate, now Central Middle School, and Bethel Grammar School. She was later enrolled as a boarding student at Kawaihaʻo Seminary, also called Kawaihaʻo Seminary for Girls. Very few people know anything about these missionary schools. Just so you know, Kawaihaʻo Seminary was founded in 1864 and in 1908 merged with Mills Institute for Boys, which was founded in 1894. 35 acres of land in Manoa Valley were purchased by the Hawaiian Board of Foreign Missions, where both schools operated independently, coexisting until becoming co-educational in 1923 and renamed Mid-Pacific Institute. So that's the background of that school. So when she was going to Kawaihaʻo Seminary, a girl who had just came in from the country didn't speak English, understand much English. So she asked Kawena for help. A teacher overheard Kawena speaking to the girl in Hawaiian. She was severely reprimanded for such a terrible infraction as trying to help another girl by speaking in the outlawed Hawaiian tongue. She was also punished and made an example of by being allowed to eat only bread and water for lunch for an entire week, doing so on a table by herself in front of all the other students. In addition, she was not allowed to go home to visit her family. She was very hurt by this incident, which caused a deep dislike for the school. Her mother, Pa'ahana, was indignant when she found out what had happened and vowed her daughter would never return to that school after the term ended. She left at 15 years of age and did not return. She never forgot this incident, recalling with great sadness the hardship imposed, especially upon children from country areas who were not allowed to and were punished for speaking their own language, the language of their Hawaiian ancestors. And many of our Hawaiian children suffered at the hands of these missionaries. But just as an aside, there's a book published by the University of Hawaii Press in 2012. The name of that book is An American Girl in the Hawaiian Islands. Some letters were found written by a young missionary woman who taught at Kawaihaʻo Seminary from 1890 to 1893. Her name was Carrie Prudence Winter. Some of her letters written to her fiancé include accounts of clear attempts to suppress the culture of young Hawaiians by these missionary teachers. In these letters, she told him that she disciplined the girls by placing them in closets or corners, sometimes for extended periods of time, applying corporal punishment by using a whip on the girls' legs after making them raise their skirts, and sometimes restricting food as a school policy. The infractions noted in her letters included insubordination, theft of food, failing to do assigned tasks, speaking Hawaiian, or dancing a hula. These letters provide rare evidence from a primary source that truly confirm the suppression of culture that took place in the missionary schools. That's about the age when she left school. I'm going to ask Perry to come up, please.
Aloha kako. I'm going to invite some of our keiki, and we chose to do, these are the mo'opuna kualua, so the great-great-grandchildren of Mary Kawena kuʻi. Some of them have more family names that they hold. The first one here in the lavender, her name is Nali'i Po'eboku, after our my great-great-great-grandmother. And then Kalamanamana is another family name. Kaumoali'i. And Kiahula'i o Kauaha'au is not a family name, but it commemorates our relationship to this land because the rain here is Kauaha'au. Kiahula'i o Kauaha'au. Kaumo'imia kahaku na pua'ala unuanu. She has our grandmother's, my grandma Pele's middle name. And then Ka'amuhie Kauaha'au, the last one, yeah, Mekai. So they're going to do Kiao Nani, which is a chant that was written by Mary Kawena Puku'i, my great-grandmother, their great-great-grandmother. And it talks about the beauty of the world that we live in. And she was very inspired by the beauty of Hawaii, of course, and she wanted to pass that love of our land on to children. So it's actually a children's song, Calvin. Makoko?
Makoko. Ai, kiao nani, ha, iluna. Iluna la, iluna, na manu o kalepa. Iluna, iluna la, iluna, na manu o kalepa. Ilalo, ilalo la, ilalo, na pua o kawanua. Ilalo, ilalo la, ilalo, na pua o kawanua. Iuka, iuka la, iuka, na ulula au iuka, iuka la, iuka, na ulula au ikai, ikai la, ikai, na ia o kamoana ikai, ikai la, ikai, na ia o kamoana haina, haina mai kapuana, haina ni te aonei, haina, haina mai kapuana, haina ni te aonei, hei noa no na kamali.
A neighbor of the Wiggin family, Laura Green, would visit and was delighted with the stories of old Hawaii told by 15-year-old Kawena and her mother. She She recognized Kawena's memory and ability to translate Hawaiian thoughts into English and encouraged her 15-year-old neighbor to write and record her knowledge. Kawena began to write stories and recollections of what she had been taught, including sayings and proverbs. Laura Green also informed her cousin, Dr. Martha Beckwith, a professor of folklore at Vassar College, about Kawena's great knowledge for one so young. Eventually bringing the two together, Dr. Beckwith enlisted Kawena's help in translating Hawaiian articles, resulting in a publication, Hawaiian Stories and Wise Sayings, by Beckwith in 1923. Even though she had started to write and record these things, Kawena wanted to complete her schooling. When she reached the age of 21, the court gave her $400, left to her by her paternal uncle Ned. She gave her father half, and she put $200 away until she could buy something that would last, something she really, really wanted. Eventually, she decided to invest that money in herself by getting an education. She was determined, even though it was unheard of for a married woman at her age to go to school. She wanted to better be able to write just for herself the things she had seen and heard as a child, the stories and ways of her mother's people. An old friend and teacher, Annie Iona, was enthused with the idea, and so was her mother. The wife of the Adventist pastor, Teresa Hutchinson, opened a way for her, and with the blessing of her husband, Napoleon Kuʻi, she went back to school at age 23 and attended the Seventh-day Adventist Hawaiian Mission Academy. Actually, it was the only educational institute that would accept a married student. She received her high school diploma in 1923 when she was 28 years of age and had been married for 10 years. And she was determined to get that education. At the end of 1917, as Queen Yahiro-O'Neill's funeral procession moved slowly from Iolani Palace to her final resting place, Mauna Ala in Nu'uanu, Kawena observed everything from a second-floor window of the Kapi'olani building. She saw the kuʻi torches burning in broad daylight, a symbol of the Queen being a direct descendant of Inikawikawa. The hearse being drawn by Hawaiian po'ola, or stevedores, in two long rows wearing white sailor caps, and many kahili bearers in black, with black hats, her husband Kaloli'i being one of them.
Oh,
Adrian Kepler, who was an anthropologist at the Mission Museum in the 1970s, and is currently curator of Oceanic Ethnology at the National Museum of Natural History at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., has written that Kawena was the preeminent source on Hawaiian culture for nearly half of the 20th century, and no thorough work on Hawaiian history or culture can be written or understood without reference to Kawena's vast writings and oral traditions. One day, a young Haole scientist went to see Kawena with a paper she had written about a cultural topic. He sat down in front of her desk with the paper in his hands and said, "Mrs. Kuʻi, this is all fine and well, but where is your documentation?" She stood up, looked at the young man and said, "I am the documentation." In addition to the above, Kawena, along with her assistants, staff member and companion Ellie Williamson, traveled throughout the islands from Kauai to Hawaii, interviewing older folks about their lives, their memories, their thoughts, experiences, and recording all of these discussions on a small, portable, reel-to-reel tape recorder that was considered high-tech in those days. These many recordings remain in the museum archives, a record of the lives of those recorded, preserved for posterity. In 1960, Kawena took her grandson, me, on a field trip to her home island of Hawaii. She gave me a composition book and told me to keep a journal of the travels. The three of us traveled to many places. My grandmother interviewed folks, Auntie Ellie ran the tape recorder, and I just kept my mouth shut and listened. My journal was found over 45 years later, amongst her things, my grandmother's things. Here is the trip to the eyes and thoughts of a 10-year-old boy. Now mind you, this is a 10-year-old boy that wrote this. August 1960, my field trip to Hawaii. Spent a night with Grandma so as to be ready to go the next morning. Monday the 15th, Uncle Kaupena and Auntie Ellie met us at Grandma's house, and Uncle Kaupena took us to the airport. We left Honolulu at 9:45 a.m. and made a brief stop at Kahului Airport, arrived in Hilo at 11:25 a.m. I asked the stewardess, Mary Pua, how fast we were going, and she said that we were going at the rate of 260 miles per hour. We had a U-Drive car waiting for us at the airport. The first place we visited was a Hawaiian village in Keaukaha. There were 3 grass houses that were built by the people that lived in that area. One house had a grapevine growing over the thatch. One house had lost half of its thatching, and the third house had none at all. Nearby was a pavilion where 2 Hawaiian ladies were making sea leis. They told Grandma and Auntie Ellie all about the tidal wave. They said that the sea washed away the bridge to Coconut Island, or Moku'ola. Later we saw debris, broken houses, and buildings at Waikea. We saw Chinese banyan trees at the Nanilo Hotel planted by celebrities such as Babe Ruth, the Cisco Kid, and many others. And I bet none of my people would recognize those names. We had lunch near Kaipalawa, where Kamehameha first pronounced the Mamala Ho'olau. We spent the afternoon visiting relatives, many of them. We spent the night at the Cunningham Hotel. On Tuesday, I took a walk with Auntie Ellie this morning to see if any stores were open. None were, so we walked to the Wailuku River and looked out at a small waterfall near an electric powerhouse. We also walked to Pu'ueo and saw a marker on the entrance of an ancient heiau that stood there named Pinao. The Naha stone once stood there. Auntie Ellie also showed me the Naha stone, which Kamehameha overturned. It was prophesied that if he succeeded in doing that, he would be the ruler of the islands. After breakfast, we bought groceries, then left a picture at Uncle Louie's house. On the lanai was a sign, "Take off shoes, no smoking." Hilo is a beautiful place with flowers, ferns, and trees. For the first time I saw the hoa trees, many of them. I hope we continue to see the hoa trees. We stopped a little while at Glenwood, where Grandma showed me the farm and house they lived in over 50 years ago. She pointed out that the places where the flowers and trees grew. Japanese own it now, and the only things we saw were weeds and grass. We went up to Kilauea, and at the museum in the Kilauea National Park, we were just in time to hear a lecture and see a movie. Then we walked around to see the exhibits. The stuffed animals were very interesting. After that, we rode to the Kilauea Iki Lookout, where we had lunch. The new civic home there is named Pu'upua'i. It was made in the latest floor there about 2 years ago. Auntie Ellie and I walked into Thurston's lava tube, and she showed me some interesting plants. Mau'u, la'ili, or tattoo grass, pa'inio, and others. We heard the calls of native birds too. After this, we rode around Kilauea Crater. Kalima'u was full of steam, and I could smell sulfur. The wind was very strong near the rim. I was glad to see the volcano bird, the kuʻi, fly within the crater. We went up to see Ue Kahuna. The smoke of Kalima'u blew in every direction except there. We drove down to Punaluu, a black sand beach in Ka'u. I walked with Grandma to Pu'uhau, the largest and coldest spring in the whole district. In A'aleo, Grandma pointed up to a hill where she was born. The spot was called Hani'omalu and is located in Kawena. When we arrived in Waihina, we stopped to see Uncle George Kawaha. Grandma told me that her mother and his grandma were sisters. He's an old man, about 74 years old. He gave me a package of big red mangoes. We stopped at Uncle Willie Manke's. He's an old family friend. My bedroom is between Auntie Ellie's and Grandma's. For the first time, I saw and smelled a heliotrope. This morning, the thermometer, this is Wednesday, this morning the thermometer read 60 degrees. This is a cool place. I tasted pohas this morning and had honey in a comb this noon. After breakfast, we went to Na'aleho to make a tape recording of Ku'umi Kin'in and his cousin, Kalama Kahapea. It was too rainy this afternoon to go anywhere. Grandma had asthma, and I rubbed her back with deep heat. Thursday the 19th. This morning the thermometer was 66 degrees. I got up very early because it was cold. After breakfast, Uncle Willie took Grandma and I to Uncle George's house. Then he went to look for a man named Kabilao Kekapu Ku'ana, who was going to make a tape with us. Uncle George told me stories about his father, Luhi Kawaha, and his maternal grandfather, Kaho'omana, who was a Lua expert. His stories are very interesting. After that, Auntie Ellie, Grandma and I went to the Na'alehu school, where they made a second recording of Ku'umi Kin'in and Kalama Kahapea. After we were through recording, Ku'umi's wife came and she invited us to go to their house that night. After supper, we all went to Ku'umi's new house. He was so happy because the electric light was installed just before we arrived. We made another tape recording that night. Mrs. Kin'in is the namesake of Grandma's cousin, Alice Ka'ainoa Horseville. This cousin was the stepmother of Auntie Ellie's father. We went on Friday, we went to Ka'alo'alo to make a recording of Kabilao Kekapu Ku'ana. Kapu was very kind and gave us 1 bag of salt, and Auntie Ellie and me a hi'a each. I want to mention that the old fisherman Kapu is Kabe's uncle. Where's Kabe? Oh, in the back there. He's Kabe's uncle. And he gave me a hi'a that he used to use to make his fish nets over 55 years ago. I don't have it with me now, but when I get home, I'm going to send it to you. I think it's time to go back to the family. Yeah. He was a very nice man. We also went to Pu'uali'i. Oh, I'm sorry. After we left Ka'alo'alo, from there we went to Kalai. We stopped above Ka'alo'o Kamehune, the trail of the Menehune. Grandma promised to tell me the story of that place. It was windy at Kalai, always windy at Kalai. I took a picture of a fish god behind Kalalea Heiau. It was a heiau to attract opilum. Some fishermen in Kalai caught a shark. After that, we went to Palahemo. It is a large and deep water hole. The old Hawaiians say, if you haven't seen Palahemo, you haven't seen Ka'u. We also went to Pu'ali'i, where we found human bones. Uncle Willie and I buried them. At Kealai, we went into the first cave I had ever entered in Ku'u. I came home tired but happy. Saturday the 21st, before leaving by Yahiro, we went to see Uncle George. He and Uncle Willie are very interesting persons. After that, we went to the Keolaka'a homestead, where a recording of Mr. Otto Breithout was made. Then we rode to Manukau Park, where Grandma and I walked around until she became sick with asthma. Just as we were leaving, Ma Kepler, her son Jack, and his family and her daughter arrived. A short ride later, and Ka'u was left behind. On the way to Auntie Rosie's, we visited Ho'okena and the City of Refuge, which is in Honolulu. At the City of Refuge, Grandma sat down and wrote while Auntie Ellie and I went for a swim. After that, we went to Keauhou, where Grandpa Kuʻi was born. There we saw a stone memorial for Kamehameha III. He was born dead and placed on the stone. Kapihe, a kahuna, prayed and brought him back to life. That's my grandmother at the memorial monument. I'm sorry. Then we drove to Kang's place to see an ancient heiau. We are now staying with Auntie Rosalie on the grounds of the Holy Palace. On the right-hand side of the house is Kiope Spring, where royalty used to bathe after being in the sea. On the left-hand side of the house is a grass house where Princess Ruth's son lived. That night, Auntie Ellie, Auntie Rosalie, and I drove to Kawena and Kamakahonu. Here, Kamehameha lived and died. We slept on the lanai of Auntie Rosalie's cottage. Grandma and I shared a pune. This morning, Sunday, Auntie Ellie and I went horseback riding. This afternoon, she and I went swimming. Monday the 23rd, fed the fish this morning and then raised the flag for Auntie Rosalie. After breakfast, we rode to Kauai High. Her grandma pointed out Pu'ukohala and Manikimihiau. We met Albert Nahale'a at the park and went looking for his granduncle, Mahialono Imahila, whom everyone calls Mahialono. The old man is 100 years old. A recording was made of him. Tonight we made a recording of Mary Ha'aniwa of Keauhou. She knows so much about fishing and planting. After she left with her family, Auntie Rosalie asked us to go to Alice Brown's farm for fruits and to Napo Pool for fish. We got back at midnight. Fed the fish in Kiope Tuesday morning before leaving for the airport. Unlike Ka'u, where Grandma was born, and Kona, where Grandpa was born. After we arrived, Grandma bought me new shoes for school.
Kikoa and Kalamanamanarga, that's Ka'ului. And this is another song that our grandmother, that Puna wrote. Although, I guess, growing up on Oahu, because that's where we were raised, it was nice that we could always come to Big Island, and Uncle Kanae sitting right here. I remember when we were younger, he was the first person to drive. I was thinking about what Dad was talking about his field trip. My first field trip to Ka'u was with Uncle Kanae, and he had a red BMW. So we were cool. He and my older sister Kawena was not here. We came with Dad, and we went driving all around Ka'u. And I'm very appreciative to now live on this island. And whenever we can, Kikoa, he teaches at UH Hilo in Kahakoloke, in Honolulu Hawaiian Language College. And he brings his students down here. It's very important to come to a place like this and to pass on the stories. And so, besides telling stories and bringing our kids here, I think that was one of the first beaches was Punalulu that we brought Nalipo and Moku to swim. And she must have felt at home because she was an infant in the cold water and she fell asleep. We thought something was wrong with her, but no, she just felt comfortable. So, Ka'u, she fell asleep in the water, yeah, in the cold, freezing water. Yeah, wait.
Before being officially hired by the Bishop Museum, Kawena had established a relationship with professionals and researchers at the museum who sought her assistance in their work. During her years at the museum, she became the go-to person for anything Hawaiian. Her time and expertise was always in demand. Adrian Kepler was quoted as saying, "The academic works of E.S.C. Handy and Martha Beckwith depended largely on the work of Kawena. She was also a primary source for the works of Dorothy Barrera, Kenneth Emery, Adrian Kepler, Alphonse Korn, Margaret Titcomb, and many others." Kawena retired from the Bishop Museum in 1962, leaving such a tremendous body of information, translations, academic publications, chants, songs, tape recordings, etc., that it is truly mind-boggling to think all that was done by one very special individual who desired to preserve her culture for those who would follow. When she retired from the museum, she started a relationship with the kuʻi Children's Centers. It was in 1962 that she was asked to meet with the cultural committee of the kuʻi Children's Center. The committee was primarily made up of young, part Hawaiian social workers who would run into situations with Hawaiian families that they didn't completely understand and in which the Western training that they had received could not embrace. What Kawena thought or was intended to be a short-term, maybe a month or two relationship turned into weekly meetings that continued for over 16 years, resulting in the publication of Nani Ikikumu, Volumes 1 and 2. She would share her knowledge of Hawaiian beliefs, customs, and practices, which helped to solve the problems faced by Hawaiian families. Her help and involvement had a positive effect on the social workers too, who were not only able to better serve their clients, but it instilled a sense of pride in themselves and their heritage. Here's a quote from Nani Ikikumu, Volume 2. "Kamanao, kaʻiini, amekamakia, the thought, the wish, and the purpose. Maamori o ke aloha o maamori ke mea pono i nā Hawaii e iki i nā mea mai kai o hope, kareni o nā mele, a me ke aloha o nā kupuna, ua kākou ia ke ia puke, because of love, and because it is well for Hawaiians to know the good things of the past, the beauty of the chants, and the love of the ancestors, this book was written." Very Kawena. During this period of time, Kawena reintroduced to the world the ancient Hawaiian practice of ho'oponopono to make things right. This ancient process of resolving any problems within the family received much attention, even prompting international inquiries from researchers, psychologists, and psychiatrists who would contact her and wanting to know how this practice worked. Ho'oponopono, of course, would also receive much attention here at home. When Kawena was a young child, she watched her grandmother set up ho'oponopono whenever there was conflict in the family. Following a specific procedure, everyone would speak openly and freely, and children were never excluded. Sessions would last as long as necessary, ultimately ending with forgiveness given and received, with prayers. At the conclusion of ho'oponopono, everything was bright within the family. After Pu'ai passed away, Kawena's mother, Pa'ahana, carried on the tradition. Kawena was asked to help in the planning of the Hawaiian section of the Polynesian Cultural Center in Laie. For its dedication, held in October of 1963, leaders from Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, Aotearoa, Tahiti, etc. were gathered. Kawena represented Hawaii. There was a dormitory on the campus of Brigham Young University, previously called Church College. That's named for her. Church College bestowed upon Kawena a Doctor of Arts and Letters degree in 1974. This is a picture of her with Yahiro-O'Neill and Maria Kawa. As far as hula, Kawena was instrumental in returning traditional hula kahiko, to the public view in a time when the world, through Hollywood films, knew only horrified wiki-waki hula done in cellophane skirts. These performances of ancient hula, held at the Honolulu Academy of Arts, drew audiences of up to 1,000 people, including Hawaiians, who themselves were inspired to look into the past to revive the true hula of Hawaii. Prior to this, hula schools taught the modern, popular, entertaining hula of the day. The first was held on February 13, 1936, entitled Ancient Hulas of Kauai. Done in traditional sequence, Kawena chanted and narrated while Yahiro-O'Neill performed the hula pele for a goddess, hula hoi for the paddle, hula ki'i for images, the hula ilio, the dog hula pua'a, the pig hula kala'au, using the turtle board, hula pahu, using the big temple drums size, hula kuʻi, gestures of honor, followed by mele ino from Kamauali'i, the last king of Kauai, and kuhiau, a very early singing vessel. The second, Hawaiian Dances, was held on July 18, 1943, directed by Yahiro-O'Neill, with Kawena Kuʻi as commentator and Lokali Montgomery as chanter. On February 1st, 1945, Ancient Hawaiian Chants and Dances was held again at the Academy of Arts, directed by Yahiro-O'Neill, with Kawena Kuʻi commentator and Lokali Montgomery chanter. That same program was repeated on May 15, 1947. As far as songs and chants, Kawena Kuʻi wrote more than 150 songs and chants. Many of the songs were in collaboration with others, although she wrote both lyrics and music for over 50 songs. Some of these songs are considered classics, and any Hawaiian group must have some of these songs in their repertoire. Her very first composition was Mereho Alafo La'akea, La'akea's wake-up song. It was written for me when I was 3 months old. She would sing this song to me every morning, as I had been given to her to raise. I'll just read the English part of the Mereho Ala. The sun is rising in the east. It casts a red glow over the sea. It is calling to my beloved child. Awake, awake, it is day. A gentle wind is blowing, laden with the fragrance of flowers. It is answering in a gentle voice. Awake, awake, it is day. The birds are gaily singing, the sweet singers of the treetops. They are singing joyously. Awake, awake, it is day. Little children are now awakening, the playmates of my child, to play and to work together. La'akea is awake. It is day. Alice Kalahui, who was the supervisor of music and dance, encouraged her to enter the song in the annual songwriting contest sponsored by the City Parks and Recreation Department, and she won third prize. She won and placed so many times in subsequent years that eventually she was barred from entering. She went on writing the words and melodies for many songs, as well as many in collaboration with others like Mary Lamb, Irvine Aluli, Kaho'ana Bate, Eddie Kamai, and others. Many of these collaborations are considered classics and will live on forever, as long as Hawaiian music exists. She had her own thoughts about songs though. When the song Please Release Me, Let Me Go by Engelbert Humperdinck was popular, Kaho'ana Bate wanted to record it in Hawaiian. She translated it into Hawaiian, but instead made it a love song to Please Come Closer and Never Shall We Part. Also about the same period, a song There Goes My Tutu'e was popular. She disagreed with a true Hawaiian grandmother being an inebriate booking down the street. She wrote Ku'ututu in response with music by Mary Lamb. The first verse, Aloha Ku'ututu, Ikanui Loko Mai Ka'i, Elohe Mau, Ia'alala, Konaneo Hea Hea. I love my grandmother. For her great kindness, she is always heard welcoming everybody. Ku'ututu.
we lost one of our dancers to a nap. So kuʻututu, and this is just the first verse. The second verse talks about that my tutu wears a holoku, and she wears her handkerchief around her neck, and she often is adorned in a lei. And then the third verse talks about her in her room. There's a rocking chair that she rocks her grandchildren in her arms very lovingly in. And then the last verse. So this is a song that we also teach them because this is what our puna wrote. And it's a very appropriate song because although she was our kupuna and she's no longer with us, we're very happy to have my mom over there, Tutu, and dad, and Kana'i, our kupuna that we cherish, that are still with us too.
As I mentioned, my grandmother wrote over 150 songs and chants, and authored or co-authored over 52 books and important papers. There have also been a few books published of her work after she passed away. She was also nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in Literature in 1981. In addition, back in July of 2003, I asked DeSoto Brown about the extent of her works in the museum archives, beside the many audio tapes made of people throughout our islands. This is what he told me. He said the Hawaiian ethnographic notes, HEN, consists of 8,000 to 9,000 pages of Hawaiian writings gathered from newspapers, old manuscripts, material from other researchers, and verbal communications. He said, I think she tried to find as wide a range as possible of topics. The Helen Robbins collection contains thousands of pages of transcriptions of cylinder recordings made in the early 1920s. She read through these, making corrections and transcriptions. The Vivian Mayer collection, Mayer from New York, studied hula here in the 1930s and was taught by both Kawena and Helen Nishe Beamer. This collection contains Malay lyrics and translations passed on to Mayer by Kawena. She also found original writings of John Papa E.E., gathered and translated them. An edited version was printed as fragments of Hawaiian history. He added there are also various papers in the staff collection and many other papers from her throughout the entire collection amongst manuscripts of staff like Dr. Emery and others. He sort of concluded with, so you see there's a huge amount. The Hawaiian ethnographic notes of itself probably takes up 30 to 40 boxes. But now you have an idea of the scope of her work. He also expressed wonderment that one person could do so much work in one lifetime. I recall my grandmother said she would have to live several more lifetimes to complete all the work she wanted to do. This is the list of her publications, starting 1934. Yeah, just slowly, yeah. These are pages of her work. Started in 1923, I'm sorry, in folk tales in 1926, up to, let's see, Hawaiian Planted in 1940, Polynesian Family System of Kuʻi in 1958, Fragments of Hawaiian History, 59. It goes on and on. Kapoe Kahiko, The People of Old, by Kamakau. All of Kamakau's works she translated. The English Hawaiian Dictionary. Ruling Chiefs was a book everybody uses. Came out in 1961. Place Names of Hawaii. 67, she wrote Point Making. 69, Dog and Man in Ancient Pacific. So the list goes on and on. There's well over 50 books. Oh, the posthumously, after she passed away, they still took some of her writings and are publishing them. Place Names, the Hawaiian Japanese Dictionary, Tales and Traditions of the People of Old, Hawaiian Island Legends, Hula Proverbs, these are all made after this. They took her work that she had completed and turned them into books. My grandmother was never one to look for, she never thought about awards and accolades and being in the limelight. It wasn't something that was important to her. Her feeling was she just wanted to do her work. And she received many awards, so this is only a partial list. The Agnes Baldwin Alexander Award, she was inducted into the Hawaiian Music Hall of Fame in the first year. She received many awards for outstanding Hawaiian. The civic clubs, the David Malo Award, the State Order of Distinction, many resolutions. It is really only a partial list. There are many awards of merit. She received doctorate degrees from Church College, from the University of Hawaii. The Hoku Hanohano Award in the first year. The Hawaii Pioneer Award was the Book Publishers Award several times. And just many others. The first Hawaii Aloha Award she received. But like I said, she was not one to be concerned about awards and accolades, and she would much rather just stay in the background and continue her work. So, Mahalo for allowing us to share a little of the life of a very special child of Kawena, Mary Kawena Pukui, who loved her homeland, her people, her ancestors, her ohana, and spent her entire life preserving who we are, where we came from. She never profited from her work, nor did she seek acknowledgement or accolades. She would be happy knowing that her life's work made a difference. Excuse me. Mahalo to Debbie and Kawena Ryder for inviting us, Kalani Mainaki for the idea, my daughters for continuing the legacy of their great-grandmother, and my mo'opuna who will carry it even further. On behalf of my ohana, Mr. Momi, Pere, Kuhilani, Pa'ahana, sitting in the back, Kekoa, Kalamanamana, Leha Kamoli, Lali Poe Moko, Kawai Uli, Ka'ahu for sleeping, I think. It's up, or it up, Keholai, Kapena third and fourth, Kaholo, Mukuleua, and on behalf of my beloved grandmother, Mary Kawena Pukui, and all of our forebears who walked this island, this land before us, mahalo nui for inviting us, and aloha no kākou.
Mahalo for having us. It's such a great opportunity to be back here and to be in Ka'u with our children and to bring them down to this area. So, Lord, we just humbly come before you. We thank you for this opportunity to be here in Ka'u, to be able to talk about our puna, Mary Kawena Pukui, and to have our ohana here, Lord. I ask that you bless each and every one of these people here, take them home safely after this gathering, Lord, and continue to watch over us and bless us. Ho'onani kama
As I mentioned, my grandmother wrote over 150 songs and chants, and authored or co-authored over 52 books and important papers. There have also been a few books published of her work after she passed away. She was also nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in Literature in 1981. In addition, back in July of 2003, I asked DeSoto Brown about the extent of her works in the museum archives, beside the many audio tapes made of people throughout our islands. This is what he told me. He said the Hawaiian ethnographic notes, HEN, consists of 8,000 to 9,000 pages of Hawaiian writings gathered from newspapers, old manuscripts, material from other researchers, and verbal communications. He said, I think she tried to find as wide a range as possible of topics. The Helen Robbins collection contains thousands of pages of transcriptions of cylinder recordings made in the early 1920s. She went through these, making corrections and transcriptions. The Vivian Mader collection, Mader from New York, studied hula here in the 1930s and was taught by both Kawena and Helen Nishe Beamer. This collection contains Malay lyrics and translations passed on to Mader by Kawena. She also found original writings of John Papa E.E., gathered and translated them. An edited version was printed as fragments of Hawaiian history. He added there are also various papers in the staff collection and many other papers from her throughout the entire collection amongst manuscripts of staff like Dr. Emery and others. He sort of concluded with, so you see there's a huge amount. The Hawaiian ethnographic notes of itself probably takes up 30 to 40 boxes. But now you have an idea of the scope of her work. He also expressed wonderment that one person could do so much work in one lifetime. I recall my grandmother said she would have to live several more lifetimes to complete all the work she wanted to do. This is the list of her publications, starting 1934. Yeah, just input slowly. Yeah. These are pages of her work. Started in 1923, I'm sorry, in folk tales in 1926, up to, let's see, Hawaiian Planted in 1940, Polynesian Family System of Ka'u in 1958, Fragments of Hawaiian History, 59. It goes on and on. Kapo'e Kahiko, The People of Old, by Kamakau. All of Kamakau's works she translated. The English Hawaiian Dictionary. Ruling Chiefs was a book everybody uses. Came out in 1961. Place Names of Hawaii. 67, she wrote Point Making. 69, Dog and Man in Ancient Pacific. So the list goes on and on. There's well over 50 books. Oh, the posthumously, after she passed away, they still took some of her writings and are publishing them. Place Names, the Hawaiian Japanese Dictionary, Tales and Traditions of the People of Old, Hawaiian Island Legends, Hula Proverbs, these are all made after her death. They took her work that she had completed and turned them into books. My grandmother was never one to look for, she never thought about awards and accolades and being in the limelight. It wasn't something that was important to her. Her feeling was she just wanted to do her work. And she received many awards, so this is only a partial list. The Agnes Baldwin Alexander Award, she was inducted into the Hawaiian Music Hall of Fame in the first year. She received many awards for outstanding Hawaiian. The civic clubs, the David Malo Award, the State Order of Distinction, many resolutions. It is really only a partial list. There are many awards of merit. She received doctorate degrees from Church College, from the University of Hawaii. The Hoku Hanohano Award in the first year. The Hawaii Pioneer Award was the Book Publishers Award several times. And just many others. The first Hawaii Aloha Award she received. But like I said, she was not one to be concerned about awards and accolades, and she would much rather just stay in the background and continue her work. So, mahalo for allowing us to share a little of the life of a very special child of Kawena, Mary Kawena Pukui, who loved her homeland, her people, her ancestors, her ohana, and spent her entire life preserving who we are, where we came from. She never profited from her work, nor did she seek acknowledgement or accolades. She would be happy knowing that her life's work made a difference. Excuse me. Mahalo to Debbie and Kawei Ryder for inviting us, Kalani Mainaki for the idea, my daughters for continuing the legacy of their great-grandmother, and my mo'opuna who will carry it even further. On behalf of my ohana, Momi, Pere, Kuhilani, Pa'ahana, sitting in the back, Kekoa, Kalamanamana, Leha Kamoli, Lali Poe Moko, Kawai Uli, Ka'ahu for sleeping, I think. Keholai, Kapena third and fourth, Kaholo, Mokuleua, and on behalf of my beloved grandmother, Mary Kawena Pukui, and all of our forebears who walked this island, this land before us, mahalo nui for inviting us, and aloha no kākou.
Mahalo for having us. It's such a great opportunity to be back here and to be in Ka'u with our children and to bring them down to this area. So, Lord, we just humbly come before you. We thank you for this opportunity to be here in Ka'u, to be able to talk about our puna, Mary Kawena Pukui, and to have our ohana here, Lord. I ask that you bless each and every one of these people here, take them home safely after this gathering, Lord, and continue to watch over us and bless us. Ho'onani kama
Don't run away, we have refreshments and some bolo stew, so come have yourself and talk story, okay?